The smell of roasted chicken filled the small kitchen. The table was perfectly set, like every Sunday before. Mom smiled, but her eyes searched for something to criticize. "You're getting thinner," she said. "No one to cook for you." I laughed weakly, slicing the chicken just to stay busy. Dad kept his eyes on the muted TV, pretending not to hear. Across from me, Fong scrolled through his phone lazily. He looked up smirking. "Still single, huh?" Mom chuckled. "She's married to her job, that's why." Their laughter hit like static, sharp and familiar. I poured myself wine, my hand steady out of practice. The room smelled like garlic and judgment. I swallowed hard, pretending the burn in my throat was just the drink. "Work's good," I said softly. "I got a raise last month." Mom nodded without looking up. "Money isn't everything." The irony almost made me laugh. I paid their rent, their bills, their hospital visits. But to them, I was still incomplete. Fong leaned back. "So when the wedding, big sis?" He grinned like he'd said something clever. My fork clinked against the plate. I looked at him, then at Mom. "You really want to talk about that?" I asked quietly. The air thickened, but no one answered. "You know what?" I said. "Let's talk about money instead." Mom frowned. "Lynn, don't start." "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm finishing." I set down my fork, feeling the weight of every silence I'd swallowed. "I've been paying your debts, your rent, your emergencies." Dad finally looked up. "That's what family does." "No," I said. "That's what I've been doing, alone." The clock on the wall ticked louder than their breathing. Fong shifted in his chair. Mom's face turned pale, her spoon frozen midair. I wasn't shouting. I didn't need to. My voice was steady, sharper than anger. "You call me selfish, but who saved this house 3 times?" No one spoke. The only sound was the fan creaking overhead. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping the floor. "I've given everything, and somehow it's never enough." Fong looked away. Mom blinked rapidly, as if that could erase the truth. Dad cleared his throat. "You're being dramatic." I smiled, small and tired. "Maybe, but I'm done." The silence that followed felt heavier than any insult. I grabbed my coat from the chair. The air outside was cold, sharp against my face. Behind me, I heard Mom call my name, faint and uncertain. But I didn't turn around. Not this time. The car door shut with a soft thud. For the first time in years, the road ahead felt like mine. The city was quiet when I got home. Streetlights painted thin gold lines across my window. I kicked off my heels and dropped my bag on the couch. The silence felt heavier than the noise I'd left behind. I opened my laptop, more out of habit than purpose. My banking tab blinked in the corner of the screen. I hadn't checked it in months. Maybe I was afraid to. I clicked it anyway. The numbers appeared slowly, like wounds reopening. Transfers to Mom, utilities for Dad, tuition for Fong. Scrolling back year by year felt like watching my life dissolve. There it was, 6 years of sacrifice, line after line. Rent, medical bills, car repairs, credit cards. I started counting, fingers trembling on the mouse. When the total appeared, I stopped breathing. Over 2 billion D-183 Money I could have used for my own future. A house, a master's degree, maybe a trip somewhere warm. Instead, I'd spent it patching holes that weren't mine. I closed the laptop and leaned back in the chair. The room felt smaller, like the walls knew my secret. My phone buzzed. "Mom." "Don't be upset, darling. You know how your brother jokes." I stared at the message until the words blurred. No apology, just a soft command to forgive. Then another buzz. "Fong. Sorry if I went too far. Anyway, can you help me with rent?" I almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. I typed nothing and set the phone face down. My chest ached, but not from guilt this time. It was grief, for the years I'd traded away so easily. I walked to the window, and looked at the city lights. Each glow felt like a reminder of what I'd missed. The dinners I skipped, the vacations I never took. All for a family that only noticed when I didn't pay. I thought of my old colleague, her sharp voice in my memory. "You've been trained to give," she once told me. "To believe love means debt." She was right. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, knees pulled close. A tear slipped down, quiet and hot. I let it fall. The first one in years. I picked up my phone again and found her name. The screen said "my offline," but I typed anyway. "Dinner soon. I need to talk." The reply came faster than I expected. "Tomorrow night, my place, wine ready." For the first time that night, I smiled. Small but real. I turned off the laptop, unplugged the charger. No more counting losses tonight. I lay down on the couch, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The city hummed outside, soft and distant. Somewhere in that sound, I heard something new. It wasn't guilt. It was the beginning of clarity. Mai's apartment smelled like cinnamon and coffee. I sank into her sofa, clutching a glass of red wine. She studied me quietly, eyes sharp but kind. "So," she said, "what did they do this time?" I laughed softly, though nothing was funny. "The same thing they always do," I said. "They made me feel guilty for not giving enough." Mai nodded, waiting. I told her about the dinner, the jokes, the silence. I told her about the money, all of it. When I said the number, she didn't even flinch. "You know what this is, right?" she said calmly. "You've been groomed to overgive. To carry everyone else's weight so no one lifts a finger." The words stung because they were true. "But they're my family," I whispered. Mai leaned closer. "Exactly," she said. "That's the leash." I stared at my hands, the wine trembling in the glass. I had built my worth on being useful, on solving problems I didn't cause. Mai's voice softened. "You don't owe them your peace." For a long moment, we sat in silence. The kind that felt like truth settling in. When I got home, the city was asleep. I turned on the lamp and opened my laptop. The banking app was still open on the screen. 3 automatic transfers blinked like small chimes. Mom, Dad, Fong. Every month, same day, same time. Without thinking, I clicked Cancel Recurring Payments. A pop-up appeared. "Are you sure?" My finger hovered above the button. Then I pressed yes. The sound was a single, quiet click. But it echoed through my whole body. I sat there, waiting for regret. It didn't come. Only a strange, shaky calm. I walked to the balcony and breathed in the night air. Cars whispered below, far away and harmless. I felt the cold brush my face and didn't flinch. Inside, the clock ticked softly, unhurried. For once, I didn't feel like running to fix something. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the floor. I made breakfast, real breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee without rushing. It felt absurdly peaceful. My phone buzzed again, Mom, then Dad. I didn't answer. I watched the screen light up, then fade. Later that day, I went to yoga for the first time in months. My body ached, but in the best way. That evening, I cooked again and played music. No Postmates, no guilt, no noise. Just quiet. A clean kind of quiet. The kind I'd never known before. I sat at my small dining table, alone but not lonely. For the first time, I felt like I was eating for me. The phone buzzed again. I let it. The world didn't end. The world, in fact, had just begun. The letter was short, written in my mother's careful handwriting. "Come home Sunday. We need to talk." No greeting, no warmth, just an order disguised as concern. I folded it and set it on the table. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let silence answer for me. But I knew my family. If I didn't go, they would come. To my office, my apartment, anywhere they could corner me. So I decided to go, but on my terms. Not as their provider, not as their lifeline, just as myself. Sunday came heavy and bright. The drive felt longer than usual, the air thicker. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller. Faded paint, drooping roof, the same broken fence. Nothing had changed, except me. Mom opened the door without a smile. "Lynn," she said flatly, "you took your time." I stepped inside. Dad sat at the table, arms crossed like a wall. Fong was on his phone, pretending I wasn't there. No greetings, no hugs. The table was set but untouched. The air crackled with expectation. I took a seat. No one spoke. Finally, Mom cleared her throat. "This family can't survive without your help," she began. "You have a good job. You should contribute." I looked at her calm. "I'm not helping anymore," I said. "I've been enabling. That's different." Fong laughed under his breath. "Oh God, here we go again." I turned to him. "You think this is funny?" He shrugged. "You act like you're better than us now." I took a slow breath. "Forgiving isn't the same as forgetting," I said quietly. "And loving you doesn't mean I have to keep saving you." Mom's eyes widened. "We're your parents." "I know," I said. "And I'm your daughter, not your bank." Dad slammed his palm on the table. The plates rattled. "This is your home," he growled. "You should know your place." I pushed my chair back, the sound sharp in the silence. "If this is what home means," I said, "then maybe I don't belong here." Mom's mouth opened, but no words came out. Fong froze, eyes darting between us. Dad's face hardened, but I saw something behind the anger. Fear. Maybe for the first time, he realized I wasn't bluffing. I stood up slowly. My heart pounded, but my voice didn't shake. "I'm not leaving out of hate," I said. "I'm leaving because I finally love myself enough to stop bleeding." No one moved. I turned toward the door. The silence followed like a shadow. Outside, the evening air was cool against my skin. I walked to the car without looking back. The house behind me stayed quiet, small fatting. As I started the engine, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief. Not victory. Just freedom, raw and unfamiliar. And I knew it was only the beginning. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Plain, thick, with my name printed in blue ink. No return address, no warning. I tore it open absent-mindedly, thinking it was bank mail. Then I froze. Inside was a loan agreement, $60,000. My name, my social ID, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. The handwriting was shaky, clumsy, a poor imitation. I flipped through the pages, my pulse hammering in my ears. Date of signing, 2 weeks ago. That day, I was at work in Saigon. My hands went cold. My throat tightened. I could barely breathe. I checked the bank's number twice before dialing. "Miss Lynn," the clerk said politely, "you co-signed this loan." "No," I whispered. "I didn't." Silence stretched through the line. She promised to investigate and hung up. I sat there, staring at the papers scattered across the table. My parents' address glared back from the loan file. They'd done it. They used my name. My phone buzzed again. "Mom." "Don't worry," her text read. "We just handled something with the bank." Handled. The word made me sick. No apology, no explanation. Just calm, practiced deceit. They thought I wouldn't find out. They thought I'd clean it up like always. Something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with clarity. I opened my laptop and searched. Fraud lawyer identity theft. The first name that appeared was Ms. Duong, small photo, steady eyes. I called and booked an appointment for Friday. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, papers spread around me like crime evidence. Every transfer, every bill, every sacrifice stared back. It wasn't just debt anymore. It was betrayal, deliberate, planned, personal. Friday came heavy with dread. Ms. Duong listened quietly as I told her everything. When I finished, she flipped through the loan forms without blinking. "This isn't a misunderstanding," she said. "This is a crime. Fraud, forgery, identity theft." My voice cracked, but they're my parents. She looked at me calmly. "That makes it worse. You were raised to protect them, even from the truth." Her words cut deep. "You can forgive," she said softly, "but you can also fight." I nodded, tears burning my eyes. "What do I do?" "Collect everything," she said. "Receipts, transfers, messages, every proof." That night, I did exactly that. I gathered 7 years of data, every dollar, every receipt. I labeled the folder evidence. When I finished, my hands were shaking, but my heart was steady. I sent the files to her before midnight. By morning, she'd filed an official report. The bank would investigate. For the first time, I wasn't saving anyone. I was saving myself. As the sun rose, I stood by the window, eyes burning but clear. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. And I knew they had no idea what was coming next. 2 weeks passed before I went back to the house. This time, I didn't bring food or excuses. I brought a binder, thick, heavy, filled with proof. Every receipt, every transfer, every lie. When Mom opened the door, she froze. Her smile faltered the moment she saw the binder in my hand. Dad sat stiffly in his chair, arms crossed. Fong leaned on the wall, pretending not to care. I placed the binder on the table. "I'm keeping this simple," I said. "This shows every dollar I've paid for this family." They stayed silent. I flipped to the next section, the forged loan. My name, my signature, $60,000 I never agreed to. Mom's face went pale. Dad's jaw clenched. "You didn't just depend on me," I continued. "You used me." Dad scoffed. "We're family, that's what family does." "No," I said, my voice sharp. "That's what you do when you confuse love with entitlement." Mom's lips trembled. "We were saving the house." "You were saving yourselves," I snapped. "You never once asked what this would do to me." Fong rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting, you have money." I turned to him, my voice ice cold. "You don't get to say that. Not after I paid your tuition and rent." He looked away, silent. I straightened the binder and looked at all of them. "You have 30 days, I said. 30 days to remove my name from that loan. If you don't, I'll press charges." Dad stood, his tone low, dangerous. "You'd take your own family to court." "I would," I said evenly. "Because you already took something from me, my trust." The room fell silent. No one moved. Mom's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. Dad looked at me like he didn't recognize who I was. Maybe he didn't. I picked up the binder. "This isn't a threat," I said quietly. "It's a boundary." Then I turned and walked out. No one followed. The air outside was dry, the sun sharp against my face. But I felt light, cleaner than I had in years. The drive home was silent. No music, no shaking hands. Just the sound of my own breathing, steady and sure. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was Ms. Duong. "The bank confirmed the forgery," she said. "You're no longer liable. The loan's been reassigned." I didn't speak. The words hung in the air like sunlight after a storm. "You're free, Lin," she added. Free. I whispered it to myself, testing how it felt. It fit perfectly. That night, I sat on the balcony, wine in hand. The city lights flickered below, soft and forgiving. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for an apology. I wasn't waiting for permission to rest. I had chosen myself, fully, finally, fearlessly. And I knew I would never go back. The house went up for sale a month later. I saw the listing by accident, scrolling through my phone. Same address, same faded paint, but it looked smaller now. A message came from Fong that night. You really let it come to this. We lost everything. I typed nothing. For once, silence was enough. A week later, Mom texted one line. Sunday dinner. One last meal, please come. I said yes, not out of guilt but for closure. The house was nearly empty when I arrived. Boxes stacked by the wall, plates packed away. We ate quietly, no jokes, no accusations. When I stood to leave, I spoke softly. I'm still your daughter, still his sister, but not your lifeline anymore. No one argued. No one cried. Just quiet understanding that something had ended. Outside, the porch light flickered. The air smelled like rain. I walked away without looking back. 2 months later, I was promoted. I celebrated alone, smiling without shame. Some nights, I still miss them, but not the weight. Love, I learned, should never demand your soul as payment. And for the first time, mine was finally free.